The story I'm about to share is deeply personal, but I believe it's one that many can relate to. Breakups are often painted as the worst moments of our lives, filled with pain, regret, and loss. And for a long time, I thought my story was just that, a chapter of heartbreak I'd rather forget. But looking back now, I can see it was the best thing that ever happened to me. In many ways, it saved my life. I hope that by sharing this, someone out there who feels stuck in a similar situation can find hope and strength to move forward. It started like most relationships do, with excitement and butterflies. I met them at a time when I was feeling vulnerable and unsure of myself. They seemed like the answer to everything I was missing. Funny, charming, attentive, everything about them felt like a dream come true. It was intoxicating to feel wanted, to feel like I was someone's priority. For a while, I believed we were perfect together. I ignored the little things that bothered me, brushed aside the red flags, and convinced myself that love was about compromise and patience, but over time, the cracks began to show. At first, it was subtle, dismissive comments, a lack of interest in my thoughts or feelings, small moments where I felt invisible. I told myself I was overreacting. They're just stressed, I thought. It's not a big deal. But the dismissiveness turned into criticism, and the criticism turned into control. I began to lose sight of who I was. My dreams, my goals, even my sense of self-worth seemed to fade away. I became someone who existed only to keep the peace, to make them happy, to avoid confrontation at all costs. One of the hardest things about being in a toxic relationship is how it warps your perception of love and normalcy. I started to believe that the way I was being treated was my fault. If I could just be better, do better, try harder, then maybe they'd love me the way I deserved. It became a cycle of trying to prove my worth, only to be met with more disappointment and pain. Every time I thought about leaving, I felt paralyzed by fear. What if I couldn't find anyone better? What if I was the problem? What if I ended up alone forever? These thoughts kept me trapped for far longer than I care to admit. The breaking point came during a moment I'll never forget. It was an ordinary day, and we had a small argument over something trivial. But this time, something inside me shifted. I looked at them as they spoke, and for the first time, I saw them clearly, not as the person I had built up in my mind, but as they truly were. I realized that no matter how much I gave, it would never be enough. They didn't want a partner, they wanted control. And I knew, deep down, that I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for someone who didn't see my value. Leaving wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The fear of the unknown was overwhelming, and the thought of starting over felt impossible. But I also felt a sense of liberation, a small spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could build a life that was truly mine. The first few weeks were a blur of tears, self-doubt, and loneliness. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I began to rediscover pieces of myself that I thought were lost forever. I started to focus on things that brought me joy, hobbies I had abandoned, friendships I had neglected, dreams I had shelved away. I surrounded myself with people who lifted me up, who reminded me of my worth, and who believed in me when I struggled to believe in myself. I began to set boundaries, not just with others, but with myself. I promised to never settle for less than I deserved again, to never lose myself in someone else's shadow, and to always prioritize my own happiness and well-being. Therapy became a lifeline for me during this time. It helped me unravel the layers of hurt, understand why I had stayed as long as I did, and rebuild my sense of self-worth. I learned that it's okay to be imperfect, that my value isn't determined by someone else's opinion of me, and that I am deserving of love and respect simply because I exist. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. Looking back now, I can see how that breakup wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning. It forced me to confront the parts of myself I had been avoiding, to take responsibility for my own happiness, and to rebuild my life from the ground up. I'm not the same person I was back then, and for that, I am deeply grateful. The pain I went through taught me resilience. The loss I felt taught me gratitude. And the love I was searching for all along? I found it within myself. Today, I'm in a place I never thought I'd be. I wake up each morning excited for what lies ahead, confident in who I am, and at peace with my past. I've learned that love isn't about losing yourself in someone else. It's about finding someone who adds to your life without taking away from who you are. And while I don't know what the future holds, I know that I'll never settle for anything less than what I deserve. If you're listening to this and you feel trapped in a relationship that's draining you, I want you to know that you're not alone. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to grieve what you thought you had. But I promise you, there's a life waiting for you on the other side, a life full of joy, freedom, and love. You are stronger than you think, braver than you feel, and more deserving than you realize. Sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the most beautiful transformations. Trust yourself and take that leap. Your future self will thank you.